This is the story of a young man who went through many hard things, betrayal, lies, prison, but never gave up. He trusted God, even when nothing made sense. And in the end, God lifted him up higher than anyone could imagine. His name was Joseph. Joseph was 17 years old. He lived in the land of Canaan with his father Jacob and his brothers. Joseph's father loved him more than all his other sons, because Joseph was born to him in his old age. To show his love, Jacob gave Joseph a special robe. It was long and colorful. The robe made Joseph stand out from his brothers. But Joseph's brothers were not happy. They saw that their father loved Joseph the most. This made them jealous. They could not speak kindly to him. Their hearts were full of anger and hate. One night, Joseph had a dream. He was excited and told his brothers, "In my dream, we were out in the field, tying bundles of grain. Suddenly, my bundle stood up, and your bundles gathered around mine and bowed down to it." His brothers were furious. "Do you think you will be king over us?" they said. "Will you rule us someday?" Then Joseph had another dream. He said, "I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars. They all bowed down to me." He told the dream to his father and brothers. His father said, "What kind of dream is this? Will your mother, your brothers, and I really bow down to you?" But in his heart, Jacob wondered what the dreams could mean. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to go check on his brothers. They were far away watching the sheep. Joseph went to find them. When the brothers saw Joseph coming in the distance, wearing his colorful robe, they made an evil plan. "Here comes the dreamer," they said. "Let's kill him. We can throw his body into a dry pit and say a wild animal ate him. Then we'll see what happens to his dreams." Reuben, the oldest brother, tried to save Joseph. He said, "Don't kill him, just throw him into the pit." Reuben planned to come back later and rescue him. When Joseph came near, the brothers grabbed him. They tore off his special robe and threw him into an empty pit. The pit was deep and had no water. Then the brothers sat down to eat. As they were eating, they saw a group of traders coming. The traders were traveling to Egypt, carrying goods to sell. Judah, one of the brothers, had an idea. "Let's not kill Joseph. Let's sell him to these traders. We will not be guilty of his death and will still be rid of him." So the brothers sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver. The traders took Joseph away to Egypt. He was now a slave. Later, Reuben came back to the pit. When he saw that Joseph was gone, he tore his clothes in sorrow. He cried, "The boy is gone. What will I do now?" The brothers killed a goat and dipped Joseph's colorful robe in its blood. They took the robe to their father and said, "We found this. Do you think it belongs to Joseph?" Jacob looked at the robe and cried, "It is my son's robe. A wild animal must have eaten him." He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and cried for many days. His sons and daughters tried to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. He said, "I will mourn for my son until I die." Meanwhile, the traders took Joseph to Egypt. There, he was sold to a man named Potifer. Potifer was an officer of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. He was the captain of the guard, a powerful man. But even though Joseph was far from home, and even though he was a slave, God was still with him. Joseph worked hard, and God helped him succeed in everything he did. Potiphar saw that the Lord was with Joseph, so he trusted him. He put Joseph in charge of his whole house. Everything Joseph touched was blessed. Joseph grew strong and wise. Potiphar did not worry about anything in his house because Joseph took care of it all. The only thing Potiphar had to think about was the food he ate. But Joseph's troubles were not over. Potiphar's wife began to notice him. She saw that Joseph was handsome and strong. She wanted him to sin with her. She said to him, "Come and lie with me." But Joseph refused. "My master trusts me," he said. "He has put me in charge of everything. He has kept nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a sin against God." Day after day, she spoke to him, but Joseph would not agree. He stayed away from her as much as he could. One day, Joseph went into the house to do his work. No one else was inside. Potiphar's wife grabbed him by his robe and said, "Come lie with me." But Joseph pulled away and ran out of the house. He left his robe in her hands and fled. Potiphar's wife was angry. She held Joseph's robe and called for the other servants. She lied to them. "Look," she said, That Hebrew slave tried to hurt me. He came in here, but I screamed. When he heard me cry out, he ran away and left his robe beside me. When Potifer came home, she told him the same lie. She held up the robe and said, "This is what your servant did to me." Potifer was furious. He believed his wife. Without asking Joseph what really happened, he threw him into prison. It was the place where the king's prisoners were kept. But even in prison, the Lord was with Joseph. God showed him kindness and gave him favor with the prison keeper. Soon the keeper put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners. Whatever happened in the prison, Joseph was the one in charge, and the Lord made him succeed in everything he did. One day, 2 new prisoners were brought in. They had once worked for Pharaoh. One was the chief cupbearer, and the other was the chief baker. Pharaoh had become angry with both of them and put them in prison. Joseph was given the task to serve them. After some time, each man had a dream on the same night. In the morning, Joseph saw that they looked troubled. "Why do you look so sad today?" he asked them. "We both had dreams," they said, "but there is no one to tell us what they mean." Joseph said, "Interpretations belong to God. Please tell me your dreams." The chief cupbearer spoke first. "In my dream, I saw a vine with 3 branches. The branches budded, blossomed, and then grapes grew. I took the grapes and squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, then placed the cup in his hand." Joseph said, "This is what your dream means. The 3 branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift you up and give you back your position. You will serve Pharaoh his cup just like before." Then Joseph added, "Please remember me when you are set free. Speak kindly to Pharaoh and help me get out of this prison. I was taken from my homeland unfairly, and I've done nothing wrong here to deserve being in prison." Then the chief baker told Joseph his dream. "I had 3 baskets of bread on my head," he said. "In the top basket were all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh. But birds came and ate the food out of the basket while it was still on my head." Joseph said, "This is what your dream means. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and hang you on a tree. Birds will eat your flesh." 3 days later was Pharaoh's birthday. He had a big feast and called for the cupbearer and the baker. Just as Joseph said, the cupbearer was restored to his position, and the baker was put to death. But the cupbearer forgot about Joseph. He did not speak to Pharaoh about him. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. Joseph stayed in prison, waiting and trusting God. 2 full years passed. Then Pharaoh had a dream. He woke up troubled. He called for all his wise men and magicians, but no one could tell him what the dream meant. That's when the cupbearer remembered Joseph. He said to Pharaoh, "Today I remember my mistake. When you were angry with me and the baker, we were put in prison. There was a young Hebrew man there, a servant. We both had dreams, and he told us what they meant. Everything happened just as he said. I was restored, and the baker was hanged." Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once. They quickly brought him out of the prison. He shaved, changed his clothes, and stood before Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to him, "I had a dream. No one can explain it, but I heard that you can understand dreams." Joseph said, "I cannot do it, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he needs." Pharaoh told his dream. "In my dream, I was standing by the Nile River. I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come out of the water and graze in the grass. Then 7 thin, sick cows came out of the river and stood beside the fat cows. The thin cows ate the fat cows, but even after eating them, they still looked thin and weak. Then I saw another dream," Pharaoh said. "There were 7 heads of grain, full and good, growing on one stalk. After them, 7 thin heads came up, dried out by the wind. The thin heads swallowed up the good ones. I told this to my wise men, but no one could explain it." Joseph listened carefully. Then he said, "Both dreams mean the same thing. God has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. They are 7 years of great harvest in Egypt. But after them will come 7 years of hunger. The famine will be so bad that people will forget the good years. That is why the dream came twice. God has decided, and it will happen soon." Then Joseph gave advice. Pharaoh should find a wise and careful man to be in charge of the land. He should appoint officers to collect food during the 7 good years. They must store grain in the cities and save it for the time of famine. That way, Egypt will not be destroyed by hunger. Pharaoh and his officials liked the plan. Pharaoh asked, "Can we find anyone like this man who has the Spirit of God in him." Pharaoh looked at Joseph and said, "Since God has shown you all this, there is no one as wise and understanding as you. You shall be in charge of my house, and all my people will obey your commands. Only in my throne will I be greater than you." Then Pharaoh took off his royal ring and placed it on Joseph's hand. He gave him fine clothes made of linen and put a gold chain around his neck. He made Joseph ride in the second-best chariot. People shouted before him, "Bow down." In this way, Pharaoh made Joseph the ruler over all of Egypt. Joseph was 30 years old when he began to serve Pharaoh. He traveled across Egypt to prepare the land. During the 7 good years, the land produced more food than ever before. Joseph stored huge amounts of grain in every city. It was so much that no one could keep count. During this time, Joseph got married. He had 2 sons. He named the first son Manasseh, which means, "God has made me forget all my troubles." He named the second son Ephraim, meaning, "God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering." Then the 7 years of hunger began. Just as Joseph said, the land stopped producing food. The famine was in all the lands, but in Egypt there was bread. The people cried out to Pharaoh for help, and Pharaoh said, "Go to Joseph. Do what he tells you." Joseph opened the storehouses and sold grain to the people. The famine was very strong in Egypt and in the surrounding lands. Back in Canaan, Joseph's father Jacob and his family were hungry too. He heard that there was food in Egypt, so he said to his sons, "Why are you just looking at each other? Go to Egypt and buy some grain so we won't die." 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's younger brother, because he was afraid something bad might happen to him. When the brothers came to Egypt, they bowed down before Joseph. They did not know it was him, but Joseph recognized them right away. He remembered the dreams he had long ago. Joseph did not tell them who he was. He spoke to them harshly. "Where do you come from?" he asked. They said, "From the land of Canaan. We have come to buy food." Joseph tested them. He said, "You are spies. You came to see where our land is weak." They answered, "No, my lord. We are honest men. We are all brothers, sons of one man. One brother is gone, and the youngest is at home with our father." Joseph kept one brother, Simeon, in prison and sent the others home with grain. He said, "Do not come back unless you bring your youngest brother. Then I will know you are telling the truth." The brothers returned home and told Jacob everything. Jacob was sad and afraid. "Why did you tell the man you had another brother?" he asked. But when the grain ran out, they had no choice. They had to go back to Egypt. This time they brought Benjamin with them. When Joseph saw Benjamin, he had to turn away and cry. His heart was full. He washed his face and returned to them. Later, Joseph tested them again by hiding a silver cup in Benjamin's sack. When the brothers were stopped and the cup was found, they were shocked. They tore their clothes and went back to Joseph. Joseph said, "The one who has the cup will stay here as my slave. The rest of you may go home." But Judah stepped forward and spoke with deep sorrow. "Please, my lord, take me instead. If Benjamin does not return, our father will die from sorrow. He has already lost one son. He loves Benjamin with all his heart. I promised to protect him. Let me stay in his place." Joseph could no longer keep his secret. He cried out, "Everyone leave the room." When they were alone, he said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" His brothers were shocked and afraid. But Joseph said, "Come closer. I am your brother, the one you sold into Egypt. But do not be angry with yourselves. God sent me ahead of you to save lives. It was not you who sent me here, but God." Joseph hugged his brothers and cried. He forgave them from his heart. He told them, "Go back and tell my father that I am alive. Tell him about my position in Egypt. Bring him here quickly." Pharaoh heard about Joseph's brothers and was pleased. He gave them carts and supplies. Joseph sent gifts to his father and told them to bring everyone to Egypt. When the brothers returned to Canaan, they told Jacob, "Joseph is alive. He is ruler over all Egypt." Jacob was stunned. He could hardly believe it, but when he saw the carts and gifts, his spirit came alive. He said, "My son Joseph is alive. I will go and see him before I die." So Jacob and all his family moved to Egypt. There were 70 in all, sons, grandsons, daughters, and grandchildren. God told Jacob in a dream, "Do not be afraid to go to Egypt. I will go with you, and I will bring your family back one day." When Jacob saw Joseph, he hugged him and cried for a long time. Joseph brought his father to Pharaoh. Pharaoh gave Jacob's family the best land in Egypt. Joseph provided for all of them during the famine. He cared for his father, his brothers, and their families with love and kindness. Many years later, when Jacob was about to die, he blessed all his sons. Then he died in peace. Joseph buried his father in Canaan, just as he had promised. After Jacob's death, the brothers were afraid again. They thought Joseph might now punish them. But Joseph said, "Do not be afraid. You meant to harm me, but God meant it for good. He used it to save many lives. I will take care of you and your children." Joseph lived many more years in Egypt. Before he died, he said, "One day, God will bring you back to the land He promised to our fathers. When that time comes, take my bones with you." And many years later, when God led His people out of Egypt, they took Joseph's bones with them, just as he had asked. Joseph's life showed that even when everything seems to go wrong, God is still in control. God has a plan, even in the pain. He turns suffering into blessing, and He always keeps His promises.